Good morning, everybody. We are live. It's Friday. Hooray! End of the week. Made it this far, and hopefully you are having an excellent start to your weekend. Well, your weekend. That should be enough to put a smile on your face, right? Ah, yes. You've worked hard for this, so take it. Take it with both hands. All right, a couple of things we got to get to straight up on the first few minutes of the show. Let's get cracking. We got a couple of voice notes here from some people who were listening to the show yesterday and have a few things to say. So let's go and hop straight into those. All right, you ready? Are you ready? Is that not? Hey kids, are you ready? Something like that. It's like a kids' TV show, isn't it? I can't remember where it comes from, but it's like hitting some kind of reminder in my head. Okay, let's take a look.
Good morning, Gareth. Beth here, and just catching up on Thursday morning show and you saying that you're fed up of doing it. And I just wanted to let you know that, maybe you are the bad ingredient, because I know you don't want all these messages telling you how wonderful you are. And it's true. You're not all that wonderful all the time. And maybe you should stop doing the show. Do whatever makes you happy.
Thank you, I will. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you, I will.
So, I'm playing here. Oh wow, great choice of music immediately after today's bending platform. In fact, during the show, I kept on thinking that because I'm listening via the app. I kept on thinking immediately after this the bending platform, you should actually play Alicia Keys' hit New York. And then you went and played Alicia Keys' "We Are Here," and I'm like, okay, this is actually even more appropriate than the New York hit that I was thinking about. Good job to whoever chose the music immediately after today's blending platform. Happy Thursday, everyone! Shap shap.
I wish we spent more than 2 seconds thinking about what song will come up next, but we really don't. It's like we just at random hit play and then go for it. So. Don't attach too much importance to whatever music we play. It's really just it's a filler, I promise you. And we play so little music on Cliff Central now. Funny thing is, I still get emails from people like, here we've got a song. Can you please play our song? Then we have to reply to them and say, actually, we don't even play music really. It's like a filler. We don't announce it. We don't say anything about it. So, I wonder if it makes any difference to people besides to Bitleng, but there we go. All right, so 2 pretty substantial messages so far. We're on a roll. Let's keep going.
Hi, Gareth. So, on the topic of load shedding burnout, please, you are annoying and we are tired of you and you need to go away. Seriously, just give the younger ones space to take the stage because I think it's about time. No, I'm joking. So I've been listening for about 2 years, and
I'm not.
your podcast has actually helped me through one of the worst times in my life. But you don't need to know that. But anyway, I would just like to say, you know what? If you need to take a change in direction, one thing I've learned in life is do it. You are going to regret it. Don't stay stuck. It's so good to go out of your comfort zone. Well, anyway, I see this voice note is becoming too long, so I'm going to end it now. But have a lovely day, and thank you for all the amazing work you do. And bye then.
Very good. Well, I was talking to my business partner yesterday, and I'm going to be taking off a little bit of time in October. So get ready for that. That's going to happen anyway. So thank you. Yes. And you know what? I'm not going to apologize for being grumpy yesterday because the fact is we all get grumpy. So it happens from time to time. Luckily, it doesn't stay very long with me. I think the longest I've ever stayed irritated or angry with someone is probably like 20 minutes. So I'm not even a good person to fight with because I won't even give you the joy of winning an argument against me or losing an argument against me because it doesn't even last that long. After about 15, 20 minutes of being cross or grumpy or whatever, it's usually gone. So that tends to help. That makes it a whole lot better. Let's see. Since we're doing the voice notes, let's keep going. I mean, it's nice to hear from it's nice to hear people's voices. I've mentioned this before on the show. It's all good and well for us to get messages, and I love reading the messages live on the show, and it's always good and welcome, and love hearing about it. But if you can send us a voice note, it's nice because then we also hear what you sound like. Tone has got a lot to do with it, which is why if someone listens to the show, they're unlikely to get nearly as upset as if they see a tweet about something we said on the show. It makes sense, because people tend to read their own tone into things. Oh, he's being sarcastic, when you can hear in a voice that maybe someone isn't being sarcastic. Anyway, I'll talk a little bit in a moment about what's been going on with me and why I think I was grumpy yesterday, but I won't go into too much detail. Suffice it to say, it's not that interesting. But nonetheless, here's some more voice notes.
Hey, Gareth and team, Stefan here from Cape Town. Just want to thank you so much for your episode of Blind History. Captain Cook found it amazing. For everyone out there, give it a listen, like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work.
Awesome. All right, so that's Captain Cook.
Hello, Gareth. I'm one of the older fans of your podcast. And as a grumpy old 73 years old, none of you irritate me. Not one. You're all great. Love you all. Even Damon. He was ridiculously entertaining, and I wish you'd bring him back. He was great. My name is Barry Jackson, and I'm a self-employed artist. I want to refer to the conversation you had with Gord about heraldry and family crests and things like that. Take a look at my family crest. I sent you an image. Some years ago, my older brother, Nigel Jackson, now passed, compiled a family tree going back both sides to the early 1900s when we immigrated from Scotland and integrated with the Afrikaans people. And now I'm partly Scots, partly Afrikaans, and all South African.
Nice.
While researching this, he came up with the idea to do a family crest. So he approached me, as I have a graphic design background, and this is what we came up with. I think it works quite well. So if you want a family crest, then ask your grannies and grandpas for some family history, put one together. It's not as hard as you think, and they look great on your personal letterhead. Bye.
All right, very nice. I just have to hasten to add here, because I've studied genealogy and heraldry at the South African Bureau of Heraldry, and I've worked with the South African Herald, who's a guy called Themba Mabaso. And you need to know that although you can make up your own one, it doesn't count if you do. So here's the Jackson one that he just told us about now. But he's made that up. I mean, there's like the Scottish thistle, there's the South African protea, there's a little bit of, I suppose, engineering stuff there, which is very Scottish too, and then 2 springboks in the front. But that's not an actual coat of arms. You need to have it registered, and it's kind of like a signature once you do it properly. So you can't just make yours up, as much as I like that one. So thank you very much for that one, Barry. I like it. It's very creative and brilliant, but it isn't really a coat of arms, and you can't use it as a letterhead legally. You can use it as a design element. You can use it as something pretty, but it's not actually your coat of arms, which you need to have registered with the Bureau. The fact is that once you have that coat of arms is representative of you, and there's no such thing as a family coat of arms. Coat of arms is an individual thing. So just purely as a matter of like being correct about this, you have to register your arms. You can certainly register something like that, but that thing doesn't follow any rules of heraldry. So it would probably be better that you check it out and do it properly. Anyway, nice idea. So yesterday I had quite a lot to do during the day, and I squeezed as much as I could in. I was having trouble. I mean, I've been sick for a week and a half, which you know about, which is boring, but it just wouldn't go away. And I started to have those kind of visual issues that you have with migraines. When you start getting a migraine, they call it the aura. It's like we have very patchy vision and you can't see properly, and everything's a bit blurry, and the lights are all very bright and all that kind of thing. And it was pretty much for the whole day yesterday and the day before, which did not help my mood at all, because I thought, oh my God, I'm definitely going blind, or this is absolutely 100% guaranteed going to be like brain cancer and I'm going to be finished, which it isn't. I mean, I haven't checked it out, but I'm pretty sure it isn't. Feeling much better this morning. Fact is, though, when something like that happens and you are debilitated in some way, because I couldn't see properly. When I felt like that, I was just like, ugh, let's get rid of this. It's just something we've got to be able to take some sort of pill to get rid of this, which obviously you can't do. And all of that combined with just not getting better quickly enough, which is very annoying. And the load shedding and everything else was like, why are we putting up with this crap? We should be in the best time of the year. And I kind of took it out yesterday on Pumi a little bit, but I took it out on you as well, which I apologize for. So I'm over it now. Better. Feeling better about things. Hopefully lots of good shit coming. And it's Friday. So I've got the whole weekend to get over things. And maybe by Monday, I'll be absolutely fine again. We can only hope. All right, so that's what we've got. I see again this morning there's a little bit of load shedding that's kicked in exactly at the right time. So it's pretty much been 5 days this week that we've had the show load shed, which is annoying because it means that we have, connection issues. It means that the show doesn't work properly, which is all very, very frustrating and annoying. But I'm going to try and get over that and not let it bother me. So we've got Schalk Bezuidenhout coming on this morning, who is extremely funny and very, very clever and very, very funny and interesting in, a comedy sense and also in a sense that this guy he's so busy. I mean, I see Schalk is doing TV shows, he's doing stand-up, he's doing everything that you can possibly do right now and works damned hard. So always good to have him on. We'll also be joined by Ben in a short while, Ben Karpinski, who will be joining us a little bit later on. Kala says, I often get the vision symptoms this time of year, even went for an MRI 2 years ago. It's seasonal allergies and sinusitis. Oof. Really? Purify your air and use a saline rinse. If that's it, then wow. You're telling me that sinusitis and allergies can affect your vision? Damn, if that's true, then I'm very, very worried. Are you going through menopause, Gareth? I don't think so. But I'll be sure to let you know if there's any other change in behavior. And then somebody said that that hi kids thing that I was doing earlier is from what, SpongeBob? Are you ready, kids? Aye, aye, Captain. That's where it comes from. So I thought it sounded familiar. There we go. Gladiators, are you ready? Says Steph. That's always a good greeting first thing in the morning. Gladiators. Do you remember that show? They used to have MTN Gladiators where they'd have these people. They were wearing like cushioned arm pads and cushioned leg pads, and I mean they were dressed like they were going to go and be beaten up with actual difficult to face weapons, but actually it was just these sticks with more cushioning on them. And that was MTN Gladiators, and they'd beat each other up, but it was never really, I mean, no one ever got hurt. So it was boring. I remember that show, and we used to watch it. I suppose there was nothing else on in those days. So people used to watch whatever was on. That's something that kids today are not going to have to ever think about. If you turn on the TV and there's nothing on, you just switch a couple of channels, or you download something, or you go onto YouTube, and you will find everything. You don't have to sit there and watch MTN Gladiators. Ugh, can you imagine? Congo Chris says, if you do your coat of arms with the Master Herald at Edinburgh, they send you a gold and silver leafed parchment version. Definitely worth it. Well, you're talking about the Lord Lion, Lyon. That's the guy's actual name. And he is he's the Chief Herald of Scotland. And yeah, he sends you a proper like parchment. It's a scroll, and it costs you a fortune. I think it costs something like £5,000 or £6,000 the last time I checked it out. But yes, you can have that done, or you can have it done by the College of Arms in London, which is about the same. And it has actual seals on it in wax. And I mean, it's a nice thing to have. But certainly it proves that you are entitled to those arms, and you can use them then as a signature. So if, for example, you have a signet ring made, or you have a letterhead made, or anything else, that counts as your signature. You don't have to sign as well. It's a legal document then. All right. Very, very interesting. Steve says he's got no water this morning. Oh, great. Oh, that's lovely. That's really good. How fantastic. What inverter do you have? That's the question people ask each other now. It's not like what car do you drive, or where do you live, or, what sort of what size property do you have? Do you have borehole water? No. These days it's like, what inverter do you have? That's how you know you're special. Understandable, Gareth. I went to bed in LS and woke up to LS load shedding. That's Moonchild. Yeah, it's very annoying. It's really terrible. Schalk looks like Borat, says Onkopotse. Carl wants to know, am I still retiring? Oh, yeah, that's going to happen sooner than you think. But just wait and see. I'm not going to threaten you with it. Lisa says, the doc showed me a graph showing the spike for infections this winter compared to previous years. Our immune systems are all weakened and were in lockdown. And now that we're back to normal, we can't fight off infection. Well, that's exactly what was told to me by the doctor I went to see last Saturday, because I had this flu and I wasn't getting over it. And I was coughing and coughing and coughing. And I thought, oh, it's going to my lungs. So I thought, let me go and get an antibiotic and get this sorted. And the doctor said to me, people are really struggling at the moment. They get sick, and the problem is they're not getting better quickly. So stuff sticks around for longer. And therefore, I suppose this is exactly what could have been predicted, and many doctors did predict it, when we were sanitizing and social distancing and masking and all of that stuff that was supposed to, slow the curve and make us safe, make us safe from COVID. And now all of that stuff is hitting us extra hard because we have no immune systems. I also got flu this morning. I also got flu. So irritating, says Uncle Potse. B says, I was just in hospital with meningitis. Jesus. That is awful. Only discovered with a lumbar puncture. Don't ignore a headache if it persists. Oof. Well, I remember when I was a kid, I had tick bite fever. Grew up on a farm, so we had lots of ticks running around in the veldt, and you would inevitably pick one of these things up, and the dogs had ticks on them all the time, and it was just, it was part of living in the country. So I remember having these unbelievable headaches from tick bite fever, and that's really all I could compare it to. And I kept thinking, maybe it's that. Although, I mean, I haven't been anywhere where there'd be ticks for a long time. But it's something to think about. Now, when you mention meningitis, that must be absolutely horrendous. Jesus. Glad you got out. Okay, so thanks, Fauci. You tap it, says Derek Barker. Yeah, Fauci. Fauci, who, by the way, has just resigned now because he knows that the Republicans will come after him after the midterm elections when they have the majority in the House, and they will hold him responsible for all those terrible decisions. We need to hold people responsible for all these terrible decisions that have been taken during lockdown. We need to actually hold their noses to the grindstone now and say to them, okay, you guys made these decisions, account for yourselves. And if you cannot account for yourselves, and the evidence that you bring doesn't show that you made the best possible decision based on the information you had, and doesn't exonerate you from looking like the power-hungry crazy that you were, and I'm talking about Dr. Fauci, I'm talking about Aaron Motsoaledi, I'm talking about Zweli Mkhize, I'm talking about Cyril Ramaphosa, frankly. All of these people need to be held to account. And by the way, speaking of Cyril, I don't know if you saw my friend Rob Hersov has been trending virally. I mentioned this to Pumi yesterday, attacking the ANC and saying that now is the time for good people in the ANC, to actually stand up for themselves and to stand up against the ANC and resign their posts in the ANC. Well, I don't think anyone's going to do it, because between them, if you took every member of the ANC and you lined them all up, you would not find more than 3 out of the, 6,000 people who are registered members of the ANC, or 600,000 people. I can't remember what the number is. but you wouldn't find more than 3 who would be ballsy enough to actually stand up and resign. They just don't have any, not between them do they have a single pair of balls. We know that Fikile Mbalula has no balls because he had them removed on the mountain, but the rest, even less. Even less. So I'm not going to hold my breath, but I do appreciate people like Rob Hersov, who's a businessman, who's made a lot of money, whose family has made a lot of money over the years, standing up and saying, actually, guys, we've got to stop this shit. Because there's so many people in business, just go along with this. I don't want to talk too much about politics this morning, but it's been on my mind since I saw the clip yesterday. Lisa says, I've also been really sick for so long. Many people have. Yeah, there's definitely, we're weak. We're weaker than we've ever been. It's kind of terrible. Lovely Lady Nee says, lol, Granite. Granite was one of the MTN gladiators, right? Remember him? There was Granite. There were so many of them. There were about, but Granite's the only one whose name I can actually remember now that I think about it. But there were about, and they were famous. These were famous people. They were like celebrities for dressing up in padded clothing and like hitting each other with padded sticks. Oh, good news. We've got Rob Hersov confirmed for the Burning Platform next week, which I'm excited about. Will Schalk Bezuidenhout be wearing the jersey his grandmother made him? He'll be out here looking like a skinny Damon Calvari. Damon's name's come up twice this morning. He's obviously in the. By the way, the only reason we can't get Damon on anymore is because his wife has banned him. She's forbid him from being on the show with us. Don't ask me why, but she's just an awful person. What else can I say? I've been diagnosed with bronchitis for the first time in 61 years, says Carol. Oof. See, this is it. Now everybody's a doctor this morning, but thank you. I appreciate this. Yonda says, Gareth, you're having early signs of sinusitis. I had mine 14 years ago, and my eyes would each and vision blurred in the evening and early mornings. And within 5 years, it was a yearly irritation in September. Oh no, I don't want to do this every year in September. There's got to be a way to avoid this. It's really, I mean, I've been like an invalid for 2 weeks. Honestly, last week, I think I started feeling sick on Tuesday, and beside going to the office 3 times, I've pretty much been at home the whole time doing nothing. I've been at home, either in bed or keeping my backside very quiet for 2 weeks. And I don't like that. I don't like just sitting around for 2 weeks. So if this is going to be a yearly thing, then I'm just going to hide away. You're going to hear from me for a couple of weeks. My daughter has a persistent cough for months, and she blames the COVID vaccine. Well, I thought about that too, right? Because you know how your mind jumps around things, and I'm like, if I hadn't got that COVID vaccine, I'd probably be fine. Now, I know that doesn't make sense. I know that doesn't make sense, but that is the different variant. That is the variable which I cannot account for, because I don't know what was in it. Nobody does. If you think meningitis is bad, you must experience womangitis. Oh, very good. Okay, very, very good. I've just watched Rob. He was brutal. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having him on the Burning Platform next week. I think he'll be great. Okay, I love Schalk. We buy cars. He does those ads brilliantly. Yes, very nice. Boniso says, you've been saying you need a break. Take some time off and look after yourself. I'm going to. Don't worry. I'm just going to go. I'm going to up and go. And yes, we can trust everybody else who does the show with me. You know, Simpiwe and Mash and Ryan and Lebang and Pumi and everybody else. They're all very, very good at doing their jobs. I have complete faith in them to be able to hold things down while I'm away. And I will. I'll be taking some time off. Don't you worry. I don't feel guilty about leaving this show. Not even for a moment. So that's no longer going to be an issue. Sahara was hot. She passed away in her prime. Sahara, she was one of the MTN gladiators. Jeez, people who got good memories. Wow. Was she the one with the blonde hair? I cannot actually remember. And I don't want to sound like I don't give a shit, but I don't give a shit. Good people and the ANC in the same sentence. Isn't that an oxymoron? Well, no, because I do think that there are some people who've been trying to help and to make it better from the inside. But They are few and far between, and maybe we must stop pretending they exist. You see, the ANC has to become so inhospitable for good people, and good people have to feel so so made to feel bad inside the ANC that they just leave themselves. But again, this is pie in the sky. Let's speak to Rob next week on the Burning Platform, and we'll find out from him what he expects to happen and what we can do, what ordinary people like us can do. That would be the way to do it. Does Damon's wife exist the way you speak about her? Oh, yeah, she's a real person. In fact, here, Rusty's talking about her, the elephant in the room. Yeah, that's her. Tabo says, try drops of antihistamine. Interesting. My business partner, Rena, has these eye drops which have an antihistamine in them, and she swears by them. And in fact, I've tried them once or twice, and they do work. Gareth, blame the allergy on a wisteria. Ooh, a wisteria. It's such a beautiful, beautiful flower, though. Don't worry, it doesn't bloom for long. Wisteria's got those beautiful long blue. Are you telling me that's what's causing all this shit in my life? Everybody's got an idea here. This is like an old wives' corner on the show this morning. All right, try oregano. Here we go, DK. Try oregano oil, also Weinreit. All right, look, we're now going deep into the what do they call it? Boererat. Andy says, I've been told not to go for the booster because I have a heart and clotting issue since COVID. Yeah, don't. If you could possibly help it, stay away from that shit. It's just not great. Tracy says, 2 close friends of mine both had a cancer misdiagnosis. Their markers for different types were through the roof, one in Australia, another in South Africa. Both their doctors said the COVID vaccine messes with your lymph and markers. How screwed up is that? Well, again, I don't know. But I'm annoyed that I took the damn thing. That's all. So if I've been sick because of the COVID vaccine, then I'll tell you. But I don't know for a fact. All right, let's get into it. Here's Ben. It is 6:30. Hey, Ben, what's up?
Hey, Gareth. Good. Happy Friday. Good to be here.
Yeah, happy Friday, Ben. So there's so much to get to this morning. I know you want to talk a little bit about nutrition and about how people have forgotten how to eat properly, which is always an interesting subject. I mean, the one thing you can control is what you put into your body, right? So
yeah,
it would make sense that we spend a lot more time thinking about that, and not just from the point of view of things that taste nice, but things that are actually good for you.
Yeah, exactly. And, this is something that I find so interesting because there's like everything. I don't know what you're talking about prior to me getting on here, but we get fed so much bullshit, like in news and by people with certain agendas. And food has become the most politicized thing probably in the last 50 years. And we just kind of forget about it because when we're kids, we grow up soft and we just get told stuff and we believe it, right? And then
Absolutely.
What always happens is once things are ingrained, we just kind of regurgitate that until it becomes the norm. So I read this really interesting article. I'll get Dory to share it, but it's this whole thing about how food has been completely corrupted and there's certain agendas around it. Now, I know like people often think that as soon as you speak out against what the status quo is, that you are conspiracy theorying.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely impossible to avoid nowadays that we eat absolute shit for all the kind of wrong reasons. And it all kind of started around the 70s. So the 70s was even before we were born, Gareth. So that was a long time ago. But,
why are the 70s? Why are the 70s especially to blame?
Because the 70s, they sort of just really cottoned on to the fact that they can make money and they can deceive people. But it was kind of happening quite.
That was where Big Sugar got involved, right?
Big Sugar, Big Pharma, Big Food. But also that's like if you look at sort of things like, I don't know, heart disease, autoimmune disease, infertility. There's a lot of sort of ills on society that were never really around. They were like kind of thereabouts because they existed. Then they just sort of ballooned, much like people and obesity from the 70s onwards.
Yeah.
So, like we've often spoken a couple of times about that the guy who invented cornflakes, that Dr. Kellogg guy.
Yes.
It was a raging pervert, like heavy religious kind of conservative Calvinist person.
He was maybe the opposite of a pervert because he was so obsessed with everybody else not masturbating that he
Well,
thought that was an important thing that he had to fight for. He was this lone crusader against masturbation, among other things.
no, but he was obviously a pervert because he hated masturbation so much, because obviously that's all he was doing. He was a pervert. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. If you're that
So-
obsessed with anything, it's the chances are you're busy with it.
Yes. So the
Yeah.
seventh, what's that religious group? The Seventh Day somebody's
Adventists.
Seventh-day Adventists. They were heavy vegetarians, right? Because they thought that meat and animal products led to masturbation. So around around 1910 onwards, they literally were preaching the fact that you would prevent the second coming of Christ because you just masturbate too much and you are just so impure. And what's causing these impurities is the fact that you're eating the flesh of other animals and you're dining on the blood of other animals. So Kellogg, that pervert who was really involved there, he was part of this group. And their whole thing was to push vegetarianism, obviously cornflakes, corn, and all that kind of bullshit. So they pushed that a lot because it was sinful to be a meat eater. So there's all these little things that kind of get dotted around that kind of all lead to where we are now. We're eating all this bullshit. But Procter and Gamble in the 20s worked out that they can create a much more affordable substitute for butter and lard. So they sort of did some really interesting things with cottonseed. And then they just basically found a whole bunch of inedible plants and turned them into seeds. Oils. And then also processed food became part of that. But one of the most interesting things around this whole why we eat shit and why we were fed shit and information was when America went off the gold standard in the 70s, all of the products sort of ballooned in price, right? Food prices. So Nixon was shitting himself, thinking, wow, food is so expensive. How are we going to get around this? So he employed this guy, I forget his name now, but basically he was like, well, if we become more processed and we sort of take away the family farms and make them sort of bigger and more sort of process driven towards wheat and grains and those kind of things, we can feed people and it's not going to cost as much. So Nixon, of course, was like, cool.
Obviously we can make more of this stuff and sell it cheaper.
Exactly. So then it was, it's like we never get taught this kind of stuff growing up. When we were kids, we're like, these are your nutritional guidelines, not like, oh fuck, we're off the gold standard, shit at the fans, now we're eating this bullshit grain stuff.
Well, do you remember all the processed shit that you used to get in school meals and even at the supermarkets? Everything was there was processed cheese, there was processed kind of meats, those loaves of meat. Everything was processed. Polony is still a residual after effect of that era, right?
Absolutely. And the thing is, because America was always setting the trends to how things work, their bad habits then became the rest of the world's bad habits. And then their amazing fast food, sexy, well-marketed, branded food became the big thing, and it became the rest of the world's big thing. So we've just followed on the whole time. And while this happens, all these different diseases and illnesses are just absolutely skyrocketing as a result. Because they our natural genes, what's left of them, were rooted in an age of good eating, healthy foods. So
that's when they came about. We're made up to a large degree of the DNA of the bacteria in our gut, for example.
Yes.
They say that a very large percentage of what we call me, what you call yourself, is actually completely different organisms that are existing inside of your digestive tract, among other places, that comprise, they're definitely part of you. They are unique to your biome. They're the kind of creatures that could only exist in Ben or in Gareth, and they're different creatures from one person to another. And these are part of who you are. So when you say me, it's not just you and your brain cells. It's actually, it includes those bacteria that live in your gut, and those have come about through thousands and thousands of years of evolution, where they've perfected a symbiosis between your system and theirs.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff makes sense, right? Because that's how we are as humans. We've evolved and progressed. So we've taken all this evolutionary nutritional wisdom, and because of a bunch of perverts and terrible politicians, we've thrown that all in the toilet in the interest of getting processed food to kind of tick the box of nutrition. But it's a really cool way of putting it. evolutionary wisdom towards this. So like as humans, we function like we were carnivores. But then to kind of really close the loop, so not only have they pushed all this grain and processed crap on us, now the second part of the story has to be the demonizing of the original foods that we functioned on. So then all this crap came out about like heart diseases because of red meat. But now more and more studies are coming out where they're saying like, inconclusive. It turns out this wasn't actually the problem.
So tell me, have you watched people who eat really bad stuff, whether it's at work or at even if it's at a function that you're at where people are able to choose their own food from a buffet or whatever? You watch the kind of people that eat certain kinds of food, and you actually start to figure out why someone has got a certain kind of behavior going on, and it might have a lot to do with what they're eating.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to make sweeping comments because I don't know people's like individual nutritional needs and those kind of things. Some people, I've come across like individual situations where people don't eat meat and don't eat things because they've got like kind of very odd conditions that are more conducive to plant diets. And I've seen that and I've given that consideration. But the average people out there are generally always hungry. So why are average people always hungry? Is because they never eat anything that actually satiates them. So when you're eating all this processed bullshit, you're never really full. You're always just filling up. And that's another reason why the obesity pandemic is such a huge thing, literally a huge thing, is because none of the foods that you eat have enough nutrients to create like this whole satiation thing. Sorry, it's always a word I battle with. So when you look at people, and like I don't want to be judgy, but I've gone through this. I went vegan for 3 months. I tried all this kind of stuff. And it was the dumbest thing I've ever done. It just felt stupid. I never felt like I was really full. And you become anxious. So when you become anxious and you look at the elevated stress levels of modern day life, lack of sleep, constantly on screens, there's no like absolutely no surprise that people are so edgy nowadays. And the energy levels are all over the place. So people rely on coffee and they rely on sugar. So it becomes a complete and utter vicious circle. And because it's all sort of celebrated that it's good to be plant-based and all this kind of stuff, people are just going with it. And then they're blaming
it.
But what they're doing is that they're blaming all the byproducts of how terrible these diets are. They're blaming it on, I'm so stressed. My boss is horrible. Oh, the patriarchy. But actually, it's the bullshit food that you're eating.
All right. Well, Tabo says, so what should we eat? Vegetables?
No. Go back to eating animal products. Be happy with the fact that it's not the devil. It's not causing heart disease like people keep saying is. Keep reading up about this kind of stuff. More and more things are coming out, which obviously the mainstream media is suppressing because who funds all their advertising campaigns and all these different things? It's big pharmaceutical companies and big sort of like pharma companies.
I found this online yesterday, which I thought I'd show you. I knew you'd appreciate it, and probably a lot of our listeners would too. So this is a supermarket in the UK, I think, and a bunch of vegans have gone and put down flowers on the meat products. It's kind of like it's almost like they're condoling the meat for the fact that it's dead, and they're putting down these flowers as like an offering of like, we're here with you, we feel your pain. Take a look here. These are vegans in a shop in the UK. There they are. They go up. They put the roses down on the meat section.
Surprise, surprise. He looks like
walks away.
Look at the size of that woman.
Yeah.
Diabetes is not a joke. It's not a joke. It's like,
right, they think they're doing a good thing there. They think that it is wrong to eat animals. They think that it's wrong that human beings have forced animals to be food. So what do you say to that? And yes, those are the most unhealthy looking people I've seen in a long time that are standing there putting roses down. They're not going to make it through the rest of this week, let alone next month. But they feel morally superior about this.
Again, I don't have the science and I don't have the case studies, but if you look at the absolute loony bin leftists out there who are pouring milk out onto floors, putting roses by there and everything like someone else's problem, look at their diets. Actually, you know what? Like, look at it'll all come back to that. None of them will be eating good organic meat products. They'll all be eating some sort of vegan, vegetarian, variant diet. I'll put everything I have on that. I was on Hinge the other day and I was chatting to this girl. Like, really pleasant. She seemed smart, attractive. And then
Is this here or in Australia?
actually here, which made it even more
wow.
rare.
Well done.
And then she told me she was a vegan, and I said, "Well, sorry. I mean, that's a bit of a
That's
downer. I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day." She's like, "Oh, does that mean we're not going to talk anymore?" I was like, "No, absolutely not,
Really?
because she's making horrific choices in her life. So what else is she doing?"
So you drew a line.
I had to, Gareth, and it was really sad. I actually thought she was quite nice.
Jesus, Ben, your standards are cutting off your nose
Yeah,
despite your face.
No, but it's not, because my face is fine with that kind of stuff. It's just that I'm so tired of all this bullshit, and I'm so tired of the fact that people are being manipulated. And it's not about like going, "Oh, I'm better than you," and us and them kind of thing. There are very nice, good people out there who are being led astray by all this shit, and people who don't like confrontation just go with the flow. And the
All right,
more that
can I ask you what's wrong with Prince Charles's hands? Because there's something from a health point of view. Just take a look at these. This is a picture of Prince Charles's hands, right? And you tell me what the hell's wrong with the guy? What's wrong with the guy's fingers? And I mentioned this the other day. I think it was to Pumi or to Lebang or one of them, and they just laughed. But I mean, there's something wrong there, right?
well, it's a bit of
Circulation
age. It's a bit of age, I guess. Maybe he hasn't been in the sun enough. And I think because of his plant-based ways, his body's screaming out for meat, and his fingers are representing that.
I don't know. Is he also a vegetarian?
He's massive into that stuff, Gareth. He's all about the World Economic Forum reset. We must eat plants bullshit. He's into that big time.
I'm pretty sure he just says he's into those things, but he eats meat. I don't think that he's a vegetarian. Is he? Maybe if somebody knows for sure, that would be interesting.
I think Charles vegetarians for the first team, because he's had fuck all to do, Gareth. He's waited 50 years to become king. So, obviously he's, Camilla's got out to pasture a while ago. So he fixates over bullshit like this.
All right. Well, what is the World Economic Forum's plan? They want us to eat plants and insects, right? Because I put that fake diet up here, which we know is bullshit, but it's still hilarious because they want us to do intermittent fasting, alternative proteins, which means insects and lab-grown meat, micro livestock, which is again the insects, synthetic nutrients, and then seed oils. Those are all the worst things you could possibly eat. And I know that's a fake news thing, but I mean it's not that far. It's not that far from what they're actually telling us that they want us to.
At all. What they're doing is they're telling us a lot of what they show there within like misleading paragraphs of text. They haven't gone to the succinct infographic section of it yet, but that's pretty much where it comes from. And you've always got to look back to where it all gets controlled from, right? So Joe Biden has passed, for as long as he's been a pseudo politician, he's passed laws that really give state subsidies towards these farmers who are pushing these seed oil, vegetable oil bullshits out there, because that's where the lobbyists are. So agricultural groups, going back to those puritanical people, they were the ones who actually wrote the nutritional guidelines. Then all the money from the big pharma kind of people was pushing agricultural groups to push this as well. Because you have unhealthy people, you have lots of customers for medication. And we all know the medication.
You're making me paranoid. So what can I buy and where can I go to buy good food? Because do we have a problem in South Africa yet, or are we not there? At that stage where people are putting like bullshit onto the shelves. I told you I got fooled once by a soy protein thing that I thought was meat. And I made the mistake once, but now I'm a little bit more careful. But if you buy meat in a South African supermarket, you should be all right, huh?
You should be. I mean, again, there's different levels to it, and obviously like cost comes into it. But I really believe that Beyond Meat is a crime against humanity. It really is. And that's
aren't they going bankrupt? I mean, I saw a story just yesterday in the news about how all the major buyers of Beyond Meat products are starting to cancel their contracts because they've realized that people don't like this stuff and they're not interested in eating it.
Yeah, I mean, Gareth, to quote a financial term, they're seeing their puss at the moment because people really are wising up. You're right. And the whole thing about Beyond Meat is that their business model, which they got investment on, I know these things, how you get capital. So they went to all the big fast food companies and said, guys, the next big thing is Beyond Meat. And they were like, fuck, that's genius. It's exactly what we feed people. But then when McDonald's and Burger King and all these companies start going, hang on a second, people don't like this shit. We're not going to take your 17 tons of soy, like absolute nothingness. And KFC, you know, they were going to have like Beyond chicken wings or some bullshit, but nobody wanted them. They tested badly. So now Beyond Meat, this company, they're going through all their money and they haven't got people to buy their stuff. So
Congo Chris says, high fructose corn syrup is responsible, and it's in everything. Ugh, that sounds disgusting.
Yeah, that's one of the big things. I mean, like I've just been reading articles. Like I'm not a doctor. I just believe that the where there's bullshit out there, it starts to smell after a while.
But also, I mean, Ben, like the one thing you can take personal responsibility for is what you fucking eat. I mean, this is not complicated. So you don't have to be a nutritionist. You don't have to be a doctor who's got 7 doctorates in, you know, food science to be able to work out what you should and shouldn't eat. No one knows that better than you. And if you decide that you're going to eat a certain kind of food, and you've decided that that's what makes you feel better, and you've proven it to yourself by doing experiments like you did for 3 months where you were a vegan or a vegetarian, then good for you. Do it. Who the hell else, including, you know, every doctor in the world, is in a position to tell you anything better? You should be able to decide what you put into your mouth. And frankly, there's no one else to watch to make sure that you're doing it anyway. So you may as well believe in what you're doing. Sanela says, I don't rely on coffee. I take it willingly. I'm happy with whatever consequences it comes with. I do so with real meat and real milk and everything else that I like. Vegans can go fly a kite. I suppose that's how a lot of people are also feeling. But you don't want to be one of these people who's rebelling against this stuff just because there's this nonsense going on at the moment, that we should be eating X, Y, and Z. I mean, who cares what the politicians tell us? I'm not going to listen to them, and you're not going to listen to them, and most of our listeners aren't going to listen to them. Carl says, the conversation has come full circle. You started off with masturbation, and now you're onto seed oil. Yeah,
they go hand in hand. Let's be honest.
Very nice. Okay, beef, bacon, butter, and eggs, unless you're like me and you have to have carbs, says Beth. Do you have to have carbs?
No, you do. You do have to have carbs, but carbs aren't like, I don't know, like pasta all the time or white bread rolls. Like the carbs are also good. You can get good fiber. You need fiber in your diet. But, you know, again, like the villainizing of these things, and this is what it comes down to. Eat whatever the fuck you want. Do whatever you want. But the villainizing of the stuff and the misinformation. So I can't deal with that. Like Tim Noakes was absolutely vilified for his views on things. Sure, he told a woman not to breastfeed on something, whatever. And then he got hung up on that. But he's been vilified so heavily when suddenly all these little studies are now coming out to show that what he was talking about was actually pretty much true. So, I mean, Gareth, like you know, like in your career, the mainstream media can get great hits about shaming you on stuff that never happened. And then what happens? If they ever do an apology, the shame is this big. The apology is...
Oh, yeah. I know that for a fact.
Exactly. This is exactly what's happening with these food people. They were setting fire to how bad meat was and how bad animal products were. These studies are going back now, and they're not saying anything. It's like, oh, well, you got us.
Well, there's so much stuff that is coming to the fore now. I mean, even if you just go back around, you know, COVID and 2 years ago and what we were being told then and how much of that is coming through now is nonsense. And how many of those decisions that people made were nonsense. And people who said it at the time were public enemy. Like you were shut down. You basically were banned from social media. And if you said anything, you were conspiracy theorist, crackpot lunatic like Alex Jones. Like no one took you seriously. You know, you were called every possible horrible, stupid, and not credible thing that they could think of to call you, because they realized like this is the only way to shut down any discussion so that no one has anything to go on except what we say, the official version. And now, of course, we know it's nonsense. So I hope we've learned a lesson as a species. I hope we've learned that this is not how we should manage a crisis. And this is not how we should manage things that affect us in our day-to-day lives, like our health, like our nutrition, like diseases that are going to come and go. We're never going to have a point in the future of humanity where we don't have diseases, where we don't have, terrible food choices. Those are going to be options that are always going to be available to us, right?
No, so true. Absolutely true, Gareth. But we all
Right.
know that people don't always like the truth. They'll just go with the flow, and that's fine. But I think we just need better flows in life. That's what
Can
I
I
would love.
ask you to explain this Elton Yankees thing to me? Because, before we finish the show for this hour, because we've been talking about nutrition and stuff, which is interesting, but what is the Elton Yankees story? What is this all about, and where does it come from? I don't know anything about this, Ben. Start from the beginning like I'm an idiot, because I am.
Okay, so the Springboks have a guy called Elton Jantjies. He lives a charmed life. He shouldn't be there on merit. I think he's quite an average player. The Springboks have a need for nutrition because they're a high-performing rugby team. They have a hot nutritionist. This girl is beautiful. She's, really, she's very, very attractive. So Elton, obviously with his, again, this is more my opinion, maybe what's going on here. Elton, I think with his charmed life, feels quite entitled to do whatever he wants. Obviously he's not a star player, so maybe the pressure and the discipline and the focus isn't there. So it's been alleged that he's been having extramarital affairs with the really attractive, beautiful dietitian of the Springboks, which goes against the whole code of being a Springbok, because when you're a Springbok, you've got to put the team's values and desires ahead of your own. And Elton didn't. So they were caught having separate interludes.
Has he been porking her?
Yeah, Gareth, it seems that he has been porking her in guest houses outside of the Bok camp in Mbombela. But the thing about Elton is he was also like really sexually harassing someone on a plane recently, which they managed to put under the carpet quite quickly. But now 2 strikes. He got sent home from the Bok camp because the Springboks are playing Argentina this weekend. And a couple of questions come up around this. Firstly, when the Boks hire a new dietitian, I reckon it's going to be a man or a very handsome woman at that.
Woman.
And then I suppose, another question is this a Bishop's water polo scenario? Because we all know these sports people can't keep it in their pants. They are the biggest raging man whores going. And that's, sorry if I'm talking ill of people's heroes here, but
sorry, I just want to put a picture of her up on the screen so I can be sure that we're talking about the same person. So this is the hot nutritionist, and I think there she is, right? Is that her?
Yeah, that's her.
Okay, no, she's attractive.
She's very attractive. And by all means, but she's obviously
Elton Jantjies has been porking her.
Yeah, it would seem so. So there's a couple of things. Firstly, I'm never disappointed when athletes do this because this is what they do. If you think that they're better than this, then you're a child. But it's just sad because now this woman's career, look, takes 2 to tango. But this woman's career is pretty fucked now, let's be honest. And how things always work is the woman always gets villainized more than the man.
She doesn't deserve to be taken down for this. He does.
Yeah, because he's taken the team for a giant puss here as well. I just think it's with the amount of young talent coming up, it's great that Elton maybe gets the flick. He was always described as an misunderstood talent, mercurial talent, but I just don't think it was that much value. And if you're going to pork the dietitian, like you're jeopardizing the entire team's vibe here. I can get, like, you're a professional rugby player. If you're going to throw it around a bit, there's people all over the place. There's a lot of girls with daddy issues who want to bang the Springbok. Why bang the dietitian? That's just
somebody says, Carl says, there's apparently a kid who bust them because he heard the sex noises coming from the room. Very amateurish.
Yeah, so that's another thing that's come out. Massive sex noises, which would suggest the porking, Gareth. You imagine being a kid and you're in a guest house in Mbombela, just minding your own business, and then there's a Springbok porking the dietitian next door to you. Yeah, life goes on, I guess.
Wow, that's fantastic! What a story. Well, that made rugby interesting for a little bit.
Yeah, look, it's also made some amazing memes this whole week about because Elton played against Wales this year. He didn't score much. And now people are saying he finally scores and he gets sent home. There's been so many good memes. But I always feel for the woman in a situation like this. Like, where is she going to go? Where's she going to go work after this? She'll always be known as the woman that Elton porked.
Yeah, that's not nice. That's not fair at all. See, that is where the world. I don't believe in the patriarchy and this gender imbalance and the glass ceiling that carries on forevermore. And we know that there are areas that men are given preferential treatment and areas where women are given preferential treatment. But this is one where I can kind of sympathize, and I think you do as well. Well, if the minute anything sexual goes on, it's always the guy who gets away with it, always.
Yeah, but I just think Elton's just had too many strikes now. And again, like consenting adults, go ahead. But when you, in the capacity of where you work, like the Springboks are they're a very public thing. So as much as I don't care about what Elton does in his private life, I'm sure it's not that interesting. He has porked her in the capacity of being a Springbok, and like it's not just about them anymore.
Can I play you a clip of someone and you try and translate what this woman's saying from Sky TV? Because my favorite thing since the Queen died, my favorite thing has been to watch all these people that they interview on the street in Britain. The most awful, 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 awful people. I mean, if I'd known, I would have asked the Queen to stay alive just so we wouldn't have to see these fucking people on TV. The most terrible people I've ever seen in my life, and they come out of the woodwork, and then Sky and BBC and all these they cannot help themselves. They love interviewing the most inarticulate, stupid, awful, dreadful, ugly people they can find on the side of the road. Tell me what this one's saying, all right? Are you ready?
It's my house, and as I passed my house, my heart just sank, it's just no feeling I felt before. You shouldn't really see a coffin that small, really. Olivia was in the same.
So I saw a clip of some woman went and she saw the coffin 7 times. She spent the entire day just going in a loop, like it was a theme park ride.
Oh my God. Unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. Just like we can tease the British. We can say, oh, well, they've got this, this interesting way of saying goodbye and saying hello and doing all the ceremony and everything else. Some of it's very charming and lovely, but my God, they also have this dark side to them where they are the most hokey and silly and childish creatures that walk the planet. And when you send these news crews in to interview them, you're just asking for trouble. You really are. These are people who should never be on television for any reason. Anyway, we'll get back with that and a whole lot more, including Schalk Burger and plenty of other good stuff to talk about this Friday morning. All of it on
Schalk Bezuidenhout. Your mind's clearly in the rugby here, Gareth.
What did I say?
You said Schalk Burger.
Oh, wow, that's hilarious. Sorry, I mean Schalk Bezuidenhout. Oh, God, I didn't even hear myself. It's because I was thinking of Elton and the porking. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's what happens.
Welcome to the Third Draft Podcast, the show where we interview. Wait, do I start with who we are?
Catch the show.
We chat all about
Content creation.
the
business of content.
Yeah, I
and
think
how
you can
much
take
money.
this one.
And how much?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I'll be like, how much money or something. You
yes,
know,
yes,
you have
yes.
to
Go.
keep it a bit
yes,
fine.
yes. I'm Cynthia,
And I'm Mash.
and we are the host of the Third Draft Podcast. So catch fresh episodes every Wednesday on cliffcentral.com
On YouTube.
and on podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. I like that. I like that. No, you need to do that. I like that. That's good. Let's take it.
All right. We got lots of fun stuff coming through. A lot of people full of comments about the Elton Yankees thing. Someone says when your dietitian says you can have a cheat day.
That was the best meme of them all.
It's so great. I wish I hadn't missed out on these things. But you see, Ben, now I get to explore and enjoy all day Friday, which you guys are already tired of by this stage. Listen, something else I wanted to ask you about. Because we started talking about this Leonardo DiCaprio thing the other day, and I thought, no, this is one we've got to wait for. So Leonardo DiCaprio always gets a lot of opprobrium from it's mostly from older women, but also occasionally from men who are probably just jealous of the fact that he trades in a girlfriend when she gets to 25. It's almost like that financing that Phil from DeWitt Motors was telling me about the other day, agility, where you basically hire a car for like 3 years and you give it back without having to worry about balloon payments or any of that stuff. So this is kind of what he does.
Well, you're essentially having the car at its best, and you never get bored of the car because you get the next thing in trends. And
Correct.
that's what Leonardo DiCaprio sees women as in his life. He doesn't need he doesn't need the mothering. He doesn't need the meaningful discussions. He just wants the latest model, like literally.
Yeah. And as soon as she's over 25, he dumps her and moves on.
Which in many ways, like if you took, I would say, let's be conservative here, 9 out of 10 guys, give them the status, the fame, the looks, and the money of Leonardo DiCaprio, they would be exactly the same. Exactly.
Correct. Oh, 100%. The only reason that so many guys don't is because they can't. I think that's exactly right. But, I mean, is there an argument to be made? Because I do often think that that for whatever reason, good or bad, I'm not the one who's made this rule, but it's there, that women beyond a certain age just don't get any respect or attention from men. And I was wondering about how Leo DiCaprio figures 25, because clearly that if you look at the scales and the graphs and everything else, people put these charts together. He gets rid of them as soon as they hit 25, they're done. And I don't know if he's not missing out on some golden sweet spot a little bit later on, because 25 might be a bit young.
It might be, but he still believes that obviously his best years were around 25-year-old girls. So to maintain that, he needs to maintain that aspect. You know, it's like you get people who never let go of listening to 80s music. Sure, it was amazing music, but it also reminds them of their youth when they weren't so fat, or they had more energy or more popularity or more happiness. So it's always about your environment in life. Leo's environment is lovely, young, just impressionable and agreeable woman, obviously.
Yeah. No, he likes what he likes, and he also knows himself well enough to know that that's what he's into. It is interesting to see how much anger and vitriol and bitterness and resentment comes up every time he dumps one of these girls, though, and not from the girl herself ever. She's usually only too happy to move on. Maybe Leo also has a very short interest span. Like maybe he just doesn't keep them amused for very long. Maybe he's a 10-trick pony, and once his 10 tricks are over, these girls can't wait to be released back into the world so that they can find a man who's got a little bit more going on. Maybe. I mean, he might be very, very boring.
Maybe there's also another aspect to it. Maybe he realizes that he can't break a 25-year-old woman's heart, but he can break a 30-year-old's heart. And that's what he's doing. Maybe he's actually a really compassionate guy. Maybe there's also that. Because when you're 25, you bounce back, right? I mean, come on.
You won't break your heart.
Break that. Because like if you break a 30-year-old's heart, they second guess themselves like, oh shit, that was the guy I was going to marry. I'm really upset. But like
Yes.
you can catch and release at 25 and they just swim right back in. Life's
Jesus.
good.
One of my friends is dating a slightly older woman. And she's older than the women that he's dated before. And it's amazing how like the power dynamics in that relationship have completely changed. Like he used to be the one who was, very firmly in the driver's seat and kind of made the decisions and things. Now, because he's deferring to an older, and she's definitely more experienced in life, and she's got like, I would even venture to say, I mean, it's not an unkind thing. She's cleverer than him too. It's totally changed the team dynamics. Like now, the two of them do what she wants to do, and he's become a bit simpering and a little bit weak. It's interesting how that happens, right? And for some guys, that's where they want to be.
Leonardo DiCaprio, who's always done his own thing, right? He's been a child actor, so he's always had money. But at the same time, the key word there being actor, he's always had his own reality. And he's always casting younger women in this role because that's where he is. His life is a certain kind of picture. Quentin Tarantino makes a certain kind of picture. Scorsese will make a certain kind of picture. These are all people who've obviously cast Leo, and that's his life. And I think, like George Clooney got a whole bunch of hate for not being married. Like he was 40 and he was handsome and he was Lake Como and he was playing basketball with his friends. And everyone was like, fuck this guy. He should be married. He should have kids.
He should be unhappy like us.
Yeah. And then eventually he did get married. And have you heard from him since? No.
No.
Look how boring George Clooney's now old. I don't even care about Nespresso anymore. I'm like, ugh. Exactly.
Yeah, I suppose. Hey, listen, you find your pattern, and sometimes it takes you a while to get bored with the new pattern. But I think Leo DiCaprio has found an interesting set of equations that make his life meaningful and happy. And who's to say he's wrong? He's right for Leonardo. He's not necessarily right for everyone else. All right. Did you do the new Apple iOS update?
I did. So now all that means is I have bigger text on my screen.
Yeah, no, same here. Look here.
And then it's big text, and you can personalize some things.
So this is what they made us wait for. This is what they told us. This is going to be the revolutionary new iOS. It's going to change everything. Meanwhile, it's just bigger time on your lock screen. That's all it is.
So you can put more things on your lock screen now. You can have different sort of widgets. You can have things that you might ordinarily open your phone to. Now it will just be there for a glancing purpose. But yeah, this is what I find quite interesting is that if you've got an old phone, you can't get the certain updates. So this update will only work for iPhone 8 upwards. So if you got an iPhone 7, what Apple's basically saying to you, like Apple is Leonardo DiCaprioing you. If you have an iPhone,
basically saying if you've got iPhone 7 and below.
So you need to upgrade your hardware because we don't care about giving you software. I think that's fair. If like these guys make a product, we choose to have this product. This product makes our lives whatever it is. So people also get upset about this kind of stuff. But if you're still holding on to an iPhone 5, I mean, just gonna put it out there, your life's not probably going that great.
No, I mean, I don't know anyone who's got an iPhone 5, but I do know some people who've got like somewhere around an 8, and it's not it's not that long ago, and you can't really use it with anything. They make it incompatible on purpose.
2017, yeah, they do, and they 5 years. People generally like the general theme is like you never have a phone for more than 2 years. So what they're saying is your 5-year-old iPhone should probably be replaced for a better camera, so you can take pictures that no one looks at. But with higher res.
Fucking expensive though. I mean, let's let's face up to that. It's really expensive to buy a new phone.
Interesting stat combining Apple and inflation is that I think it was not so long ago, like 20 years ago, you could buy a Volkswagen like car, an actual car in Turkey. Now, for the price of what that car was, you could buy the new iPhone.
Oh my God.
I probably completely cocked that up with time frame, but I think it was like 15 years or something.
Well, Sebastian says, as an iOS developer, I'm happy to see the 7 go. Wow. But that's, I mean, have you seen a 7? Have you seen an iPhone 7 somewhere?
Yeah, it looks like exactly like a 6, but it had like a front flash or something. I had one.
Let me see. I've got an old one. My oldest phone is this one. And this one is I'll have to switch it on and see. This thing's so old that I'll have to turn it on and then go to settings to see what it is.
Does it have the button and the camera? The single
Does it have
camera? Does it have the button on the bottom?
Yes,
Okay.
look, single camera, look.
So that's probably a 6, judging by the camera.
Oh shit! So this thing won't work. Oh my god! All right. Well, there we go. I mean, eventually you got to upgrade, right? So I've got to get rid of this thing. Maybe I can go and sell it to someone. There's always someone on the food chain who's beneath you.
Always.
You can get them to buy your old shit phone. Yeah, let me see. This is an iOS. Oh, it's an iPhone 6S, Ben.
Yes.
Here I am having a go at someone. This is my old phone, right? This was the backup. It's no longer even useful as a backup. I got to get rid of this thing.
Well, it's useful. I mean, it can make calls. I mean, like if someone's molesting you or something, you can still phone the cops, but you're not going to get the updates. So you're not going to be able to say, "Stop interfering with me. I'm trying to update the new iOS," and the guy will be like, "It's a 6S. You're not getting shit."
Interfering with me. Oh, that's hilarious. All right, well, let's get Schalk on. Let's say how's it to hello, Schalk. How are you?
Hello. Hi. Sorry, I didn't know we were like proper, like I had to get out of bed, sit at a desk.
Shit, dude. How are you? No worries.
Sorry, I'm just like
you're in bed. I love it. How are you?
Yeah. I'm gonna go. Bye, Gareth. Hi, Schalk.
Hi,
Schalk.
Schalk,
listen. I have to say, you are like the hardest working man in show business at the moment. I see so much of your stuff on TV. I hear you everywhere. I see you doing stand-up all over the place. It's pretty crazy at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, we need to make up for lost time that we lost in COVID, even though I don't want to have the whole, like, woe is me, us in COVID artists, but... but I mean, even if it wasn't for COVID, I struggled to sit at home and relax. So but I mean, I only turned 30 now, so I guess I thought, like, while I have youth on my side, I'll take some red eyes.
But dude, you really are working. I mean, like I even see the T-shirts, and you're doing merchandising, and you're doing all kinds of stuff. You really work damned hard. I suppose you wake up in the morning, and you're like, what do I need to do today to make the most money and to have a meaningful and successful life? Because a lot of people are miserable, and they want to blame COVID or whatever else it is, and they have sometimes very legitimate excuses. We've spoken to a lot of comics over the last 2.5 years, and a lot of these people they're not sitting there bitching and complaining, but they're also not necessarily doing the amount of work you're doing.
Okay, I'm gonna say something that is the most stereotype thing when it comes to being a performing artist, but that whole thing of I can't even bring myself to say it.
Go on.
When you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
The easiest thing in the whole world ever. I never thought I'd hear that.
No, but there is, I feel in my case, some truth to it, because I am at a point now where I can actually select things that I want to do. So there's very, very little gigs that I do that I really do not want to do. I'm busy enough that if there is something that I'm like, I don't want to do this, I'll just say, no, I don't want to do this. Because I know, that day in the diary will eventually get filled with something else. So pretty much every gig I do is because I want to do it. But I mean, that is obviously a luxury. I remember at drama school, our one lecturer, Sandra Temming, told us, if you can do a soap, do it for 3 years, save money, and then you are able to do theater. And actually
that was actually her advice. That was her advice, but that's not bad advice in the performing arts in South Africa, because a soap opera is the only regular income some actors get, right?
Mm.
So it's not bad advice. She was
She was
probably
like,
looking after the students.
yeah, she was like, if you can get into a soap, take it. It's not the most fulfilling work necessarily, like as an actor, but save all that money, just save as much as you can, then quit, then do theater projects that you feel passionate about that aren't necessarily the biggest money spinners, but is very fulfilling. The lack of thing about stand-up is it can be both, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, the one can't go the opposite way. Like you could do acting and you can do drama and stuff. And I mean, we've seen you in lots of TV productions and in film productions and all kinds of things. But it's very difficult for an ordinary actor to go into comedy. In fact, it's probably impossible. So you can go like either way, but they can't go that way, if you know what I mean. It's much, much more difficult for someone who's trained in drama, who's a very serious actor, to actually find any comedy chops. I mean, you've got to make people laugh, and that's the hardest thing in performing arts to be able to do.
Yeah, I guess I'm very like lucky and blessed in the sense that I started stand up in my first year before any of the formal training had really started. So,
right, so they didn't screw you up.
No. And when we started, in fact, at drama school, often the lecturers would have to say to me, you being comedy Schalk, like you are playing for the laugh. You can't play for the laugh in Titus Andronicus. So I learned early to like separate the two completely.
Were you always like a performer? Because people ask these questions, and I know it's kind of a bit dreary to even have to answer it after all this time. But when you were a kid, I mean, were you the kind of kid who could just put on a show and people loved to see you making them laugh? You could sing, you could dance, you could act, you could pretty much do it all. You were a performer. You liked getting applause. Is that how you were, or were you not like that as a kid?
No, definitely I was. I like getting the applause, love getting the spotlight. I think being an only child contributed to it. Couldn't sing or dance, definitely wasn't an all-rounder. But when you say like everyone loved watching you perform, I would more say my mom loved watching me perform and then forced everyone else to watch. Like literally take their heads, look at him.
You need the big cheerleader though. You need someone to push you, right?
I've told this story a few times, but I want to say that my best memory of performing as a kid, like my favorite movie was Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. And I would watch it and then like with my parents, and then like when the movie's over, like I jump up and I like impersonate like him and I'd be Ace Ventura. And my mom thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. And you know that scene, that iconic scene where he's like climbing out the rhino's poop hole?
Yeah.
Like my mom thought I did that so well, but now what she would do is like other tunnies, like whatever, just her friends would come visit. They have not seen Ace Ventura. They don't know who Jim Carrey is, but then she makes me do this specific impression for these tunnies. But like, if you've never seen the movie, it's the most fucking random thing. And there I am, like in the lounge. And my mom is like knee slapping, like, and keeps looking at them to be like, how good is this? And they were always just so polite, you know, and they had no clue what was going on, but they were always just like, oh yeah, no, shame, Schalky. And they were just too polite to say to my mom, like, you should send him for tests.
I mean, we had Celeste and Dooley on the other day, and we had Gilly Upta on a little while ago, and they're back on tour now. They're doing like international shows. Apparently, you're off to New Zealand soon. Is that right?
Yeah, New Zealand in November. I just came back. August, I was at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Oh, nice. How was that, man? That must have been amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've said to people that it depends what kind of day you're having, because there's days where there's 3,500 shows. So there are days where you feel you like having a good day and you go watch like other world-class comedians and it inspires you and you go, yes, man, like I'm going to keep on doing this, work hard. I want to get to that level. And there's days where already you're having like a bit of an off day and you go watch one of those shows and you just want to get on a plane and leave.
Are there ever I've never been to
Yeah.
Edinburgh. Are there any like shit shows? Like because you say there's so many of them, they're bound to be like a bunch of people who really think they can do this and they're just no good at all in some tiny little bar on the side. Have you ever walked into a thing like the Edinburgh Festival and you've been right on the outside on the edges somewhere and you found some crap and you thought, how the hell did this thing even make it into the festival?
Well, I can tell you,
are there people that are that bad?
Yeah, of course. But the thing is with Edinburgh, it's a paid. How do you say it? It's a paid for festival. So you just pay your fee. They say if you want to be in this room, this is how much pounds it's going to cost you, and if you can put the money in, I mean, there's no vetting process. There's no one asking you what is your show, what kind of cred do you have as an artist.
So what's the worst kind of show then? Those improv people.
You know what? They're generally actually good. I would say like just someone who's written an hour of stand-up and
it's just shit.
They're just doing like an unfunny hour, especially like after the Hannah Gatsby Netflix special a few years ago, where she like really opens up and whatever, and it was so powerful. But she did it very, I don't know how to describe it. It's a very specific thing that she set out to do. But then that became like the popular thing for like in 2019 in Edinburgh. Everyone wanted to do like a Hannah Gatsby kind of. It's comedy, but it's serious. But not everyone had the same level of like sort of. It wasn't as hard hitting. So some people just did like. They think they're doing a Hannah Gatsby special, but actually they're just talking for an hour and it's not funny. And maybe there's some kind of like, I was called names in school, but it didn't quite have like the punch that the Hannah Gatsby special had. But that became very popular in 2019. Like comedy doesn't have to be funny, you know. It can also just be like make you think.
Kind of like it really does, though. I think if we've learned anything, comedy really should make you laugh. What's the point otherwise?
Yeah, I know. I'm a bit more old school, and I'm just like, if I don't laugh, then you didn't do a comedy show.
No, exactly. No, 100% right. Okay, so when you go to a place like New Zealand, what are they? I mean, again, there isn't like a national sense of humor, but there are differences between New Zealanders, Australians, South Africans, and I'm sure you have to tweak things a little bit. And maybe you figure it out in your first 2 or 3 nights that you're on stage. Okay, well, these people prefer that to this. Or are you able to internalize that, or do you actually have to sit down and write shit down? And like on the plane on the way there, are you busy changing things at the last minute because you think, New Zealanders won't get that? How does it work? I mean, I'm always curious about the process.
Yeah, I mean, I go there with a show, and the lucky thing is that like in somewhere like New Zealand, I've never done a one-man show, so I can literally from all the one-man shows I've done in South Africa go pick and choose like what I feel is like my best bits. So in a sense, the show is almost like a best of kind of show. But then yes, like as you say, the first 2 or 3 shows, you chopping and changing a lot. You like take out that joke, maybe bring in this joke, and yeah, you'll naturally like kind of while you're there, pick up on things and see things like in their news that you're like, oh my word, this would never happen in South Africa, because in South Africa, like there's little bits and pieces. But I mean, at the end of the day, like this is where South Africa is where I live and work the most. I do my new material nights here. I work the material, and a lot of the stories are very. It's about like growing up or like being a kid, and you know that doesn't have a specific context necessarily, but like for example, I had a show a gag in Edinburgh, and it just never worked as well because Afrikaans or South Afrikaans, if I can put it that way, because like a word like lekker or tannie works across the board. But I talk about like when the internet started and you had to like wait for your parents to leave the house so you can have some like alone time with the internet. But now the internet's like so slow. And then I say like in South Africa, I'll say, now you're there on a website and you're there on lekkertannies.com Nah, and it always gets such a big laugh. And then I got to Edinburgh and I'm like, okay, I can't say lackertannies.com because they don't know what lacquer or tannies mean. So I changed the name to you there on sexymommies.com, and it fell flat every night. And I'm just like, you can't translate lackertannies.com. Like you can't. And nothing in like the English language can get that kind of reaction out of people.
There's some words that are like Afrikaans is just magnificent for certain things, and we tease Afrikaans language purists, and there's some words that are kind of ridiculous. Like I found out the other day, like a fillet is called a beeshaas or something. I was like, what a cuck name for like a fillet
I
steak.
didn't even know that. Well, the worst is for stand-up comedian, a skerp skertser.
What the fuck is that?
If you skerts, I guess, is like if you joke, iemand wat skerts would be like, he's joking, I guess, is the
skertster.
And skerp is sharp, so it's like a sharp joker. But I refuse to be called that or to call anyone else that.
But there's some beautiful Afrikaans. Like there's some words that you just cannot improve on. Like there's no way that anyone in any language can get close to some of the things that we're like. Just the word lekker that you brought up earlier. It's even the way it kind of rolls off the tongue. It just makes it sound like it's the best word for it.
I also, if I can give you another example, like in my new show, I've got a joke about like going to Cape Town. I'm like conservative Afrikaans boykie from Kempton Park, and I go to Cape Town. I had this English girlfriend, and we go away on this weekend in Neisner for this friend of hers birthday. But now everyone's like a bit more advanced than me in experiences and also in years. They were like, it was a bit of an older crowd, and then the last night of this birthday weekend, they started in the lounge what was called the Cuddle Puddle, which was everyone had taken like a pill that they said was a Panado, and it just became like it's like very sort of like Greek mythology, like like monogamy.
By the way,
doesn't exist.
We just got to clear this up. This only really happens to drama students. Most people will go through their entire high school and varsity and post-varsity career without having a
drama student.
Puddle. It's only you drama students who do this stuff.
They were rich Cape Town kids. That's what it.
Oh, okay, all right.
And anyway, and then but they're obviously like so open-minded. So like no, like boyfriends and girlfriends are breaking away from each other, making out with other people, and I just talk about. I'm so like conservative. I'm standing there. I'm like shell shocked, and then I say, there's a part of me that wishes that I was that guy, that just could be so open-minded and whatever. And then at the final punchline is, and before you know it, I'm there, I'm licking someone's poople, because in my mind, this Cuddle Puddle was one discipline away from me licking someone's poople. But if you can't say poople, then
it doesn't go down.
You can't say bumhole. You can't say arsehole. Arsehole just sounds then like gross.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think I could ever do. I actually one night I did like a small club gig in Edinburgh, and I tried to do this joke. I described the Cuddle Puddle, everything, but when I got to the end and I couldn't say poople and I had to say bumhole, it just the whole thing fell flat.
Listen, tell me about poople. Tell me, it's a great word. What are these T-shirts? These are some of the ones that you sell, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you actually do these designs?
No. We got a wonderful designer in Cape Town and everything. Her name is Nana Venter. Snake, who's the drummer for Folk of Polisiekarie's sister.
Yes.
All
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nana. But I mean, those are hard to. What's hard about those ones is that you have to actually make the stock, and then you stuck with the stock. You have to sell them. But what's lack about just the normal T-shirts that we do is print to order. So someone orders it, they print it, they ship it. I mean, merch. I don't know how people who do a lot of merch. Merch started in the lockdown because with the videos, I wanted to print some of the things I'm saying on t-shirts. Yeah, like feeling good, feeling positive. And I said to Mika, who's also a freelancer, my fiance, I said, if you set up the online store, you do all the designs, you run the whole thing, I pretty much don't want to be involved. Then you can keep whatever comes in from that, because what I want out of it is just like, I want people to wear the t-shirts. I just want it out there. You know, I want people to wear it and enjoy it. So yeah.
Sanele says he reckons that football sounds much worse than asshole does to him.
Worse, but funnier.
What about
the
this,
fact that it sounds so bad?
Where do you buy your jerseys? Because someone was disappointed that you weren't wearing one of those oversized multicolored jerseys this morning.
Yeah. You know what? Firstly, unfortunately, the truth is you can't find it anymore, because when I went to Cape Town, I started collecting these jerseys, and it was before it became like, I was wearing it when everyone still thought it was ugly. Then it became cool. Then the kids flocked to every hospice secondhand store that you can imagine. And now if you go into a hospice, you literally, you cannot find it. And when you do find one, it's like in some vintage store, and it's like getting sold for 2,000 Rand or whatever, because it's like finding gold now. I was finding these jerseys, paying $50, $100. Geez, the people are just happy to get rid of them. Now everyone's like, I want your jerseys. I'm like, sorry. But yeah, I've got probably the best collection in South Africa, if not the world. But yeah, I won't get rid of them. They now like are probably worth so much. People pay thousands for them now.
So listen, you mentioned your fiance here, and I'm always interested in how the actual thing works when you're busy doing shows the whole time, because most people get to see their girlfriend, boyfriend, fiance, whatever it is, on weekends because they're working during the week. I mean, the normal person's schedule is Monday to Friday. They're at work. Maybe they get home early enough to be able to like have a few words, or maybe they have sex once or twice a week, but they don't really get to see a lot of each other. No, they don't. I mean, the fact is also like a lot of people's lives are very much run by work, right? And in your case, you're working when most people are relaxing. So you sometimes are away for the whole weekend. You're sometimes only there for a short while. She doesn't always want to go wherever you're going on tour, especially if you've got to go to places like New Zealand. And maybe she's got shit to do, you know? She's also a busy person who's got a life. So how does it work when you two need time together? Because every relationship needs a fair amount of time set aside for the two of you. And if you're working as much as you are, and I started this discussion with you this morning because I haven't seen you in ages, but all I see is like Schalk Bezuidenhout just working his tits off everywhere. And I'm like, how do you manage to keep a relationship going when you're so busy?
Well, I'm very lucky that like Mika, she's in my industry and also not at all, because she works in our department on TV ads. So she's sort of in my industry, but like I would never date an actress. Does that for me clashes too much. I've tried before and it was horrible. But anyway, so she really understands the industry, but she's not like in front of the camera. So, but besides for the fact that she understands, she just has a very like she is a very independent person, and people always like, does Mika not miss you? And then I always joke and say like, no, she prefers it, which is like a half truth, because she genuinely we have 2 dogs and they are the sweetest dogs in the world, and she genuinely just loves being at home, relaxing with the dogs, put on some like trash reality TV. So she doesn't actually mind that much. But I mean, it's only really when I do something like Edinburgh that I'm gone for a full month. The rest of the things is more, I'm in and out the whole time. Like in a week, I'll be away 2 nights, home for a night, go for a night, home for a night. So it's in much shorter sort of doses. But I mean, we're chatting all the time. Like, geez, when I was in Mossel Bay on Wednesday, it was like constantly like we're chatting on WhatsApp. She's phoning me, so it's not like, I guess, the old days where you would get home and be like, "What happened in your life the last 3 days I was gone. Oh, this and this happened. Like we know exactly what's going on in each other's lives. But I need someone, or any artist, I guess, needs someone that understands what you do. Because I had a girlfriend at some stage that would say, like, for example, you're choosing comedy over me the whole time. You're choosing comedy.
Oh, wow.
And that's like the first mistake you can make, because it's not really, it's not a choice. Like with Mika, she's never like you choosing comedy. It's not I'm not now choosing the one, now choosing the other one. It's just like I'm very career driven. So I am doing comedy a lot, but I'm also not going to be like a total doers and book a gig when she's told me months before, like it's my best friend's wedding.
Do you spend a lot of time on social media checking kind of what people say about either your shows or anything else, or do you just stay away from that shit because it's dangerous?
I wish I could stay away from it, but I'm addicted to the pain. No, I must say, one thing that I did learn in lockdown that I just don't stand for anymore is because is people being mean. I used to think you are a coward if you block someone for saying something mean, because it's like you basically just running away.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, no, I see it as, if you come into my house and you say like, yo, I hate your dogs and your Mika's like cock ugly and I hate all your art, I'm going to politely ask you to please leave.
Absolutely.
And for me, my Instagram and my Facebook, that's my house. That's for me a celebration of me. That's where I share things that I'm proud of, things that I find funny. And that's for me and people who enjoy me. So if you come there into that space where it's a 99% positive place, everyone's like, hey, laka, 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 ha ha, we all laughing together. And then you come in there and you're like, you cuck and this and that. Like, I'm going to ask you to leave by just forcing you to leave and blocking you.
When do you think it happened that we decided that it was okay to walk into someone's house, or even to just walk up to a complete stranger? And people would never do this in real life. Like
I know, and that is what baffles me. And I've spent thousands of rands on
hello,
my
Schalk.
therapist.
Hey, Schalk, I will say you're a puss, and then run away again. I mean, like, people never did that before. It wasn't a thing that people did. And now, thanks to social media, people think it's not only okay, but they're also entitled to it. And if you have a problem with that, that's because you're thin-skinned and you're a weed and fuck you. You're like, you need to get over yourself.
I know. And people go, yeah, you signed up for this. It's like, no, I didn't. when did I sign up for being abused? Like, fuck you, dude. Like, I signed up for making people laugh. And it's not like I can't handle criticism. If there's a review of my show by a professional reviewer who says it wasn't up to scratch, I will take that criticism and I will work hard to better it. But you're not a reviewer. You're just like a person sitting there on Twitter at home. You've got a totally different job outside of my industry.
You're the perfect person to ask this to, because your comedies, it's really, really funny, but occasionally you can also say things that are really true and hit hard for some people, and especially when it comes to like any good comedian, I suppose I could say this, but for you, it's particularly pointed. Like, you do a lot of observational stuff, and you're not mean, but you sometimes pick up on stuff that will hurt people's feelings in some way. You know how sometimes, for example, you'll comment on someone who's in the news or whatever, which is your job. And then people will think, oh, yeah, no, Schalk's got this mean streak, which you don't. You're just telling jokes. This is part of what comedy is. Every joke is at someone's expense. But the fact is, because people hear that, they sometimes think that it's their job to also put you in your place. It doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't happen often, because it would ruin your shows, and people come to your shows to be entertained. But there are people who you will encounter from time to time. I've encountered them because of the nature of this show and having opinions and being able to say what you think and blah, blah, blah. But you meet these people sometimes who feel like it's their job, like they've been tasked with, I must teach Schalk a little bit of humility. You know those people? And
you probably experience it way more and way worse than I do. Gareth, I should be asking you this. How do you do you fight back, or do you just say like, you're a poople, I'm going to block you?
It hasn't happened for a long time. I mean, I'm not really looking for the kind of attention that I used to, and I don't really give a shit anymore. And also, the people who listen to a show like this show now, they kind of know me well enough to know, and they also give me the shit back straight away. So, there's an immediate feedback loop. So that helps
Yes.
you. It helps you to improve and get better.
Yeah.
And you don't dwell on your own feelings too much. But you know what I mean? There is like a South African thing, and it is a South African thing. It's very much like, you've got to be humble. People have got to put you in your place. You must never get too big for your boots. Ja, daai Schalk, ek het van Schalk gehou toe hy nog begin het, maar nou, now Schalk's been doing this a while. He's very full of himself. You know how people get, and they feel whether it's one of those tunnies from like a small town who thinks that your jokes aren't funny, or whether it's some alpha male rugby player type guy who feels like you made a joke at his girlfriend's expense, or there's always somebody who's got a little bit of an issue. Sometimes it doesn't actually turn into full-on confrontation, because let's also face it, most people are not brave enough. But do you sometimes deal with people who say these things to you? And what do you do before I tell you what I do?
Well, yeah, I first want to say, like, that is the most ridiculous thing, because I'm like, even though I've had negative comments on social media, I've not once in my life like been sitting in a wimpy and had someone come up to me face to face saying, I just want to tell you what I think about your comedy, and then lay into me, which I would actually appreciate way more. Then I can actually say, sit down, I will buy you a filter coffee and you can tell me how much you hate me, because at least I appreciate you doing it face to face. But no, I think, Gareth, for me, it's about the intention. You can quickly see the intention. If someone is genuinely sending me a message and saying, listen, I was at your show last night at the Centurion Theatre and you said something and it upset me a little bit, and this is why, and I just wanted to let you know. And I can see they don't have like an intention to be mean or to hurt me. And then I will actually engage and I'll say, listen, I'm really sorry. I'm not, maybe I won't like say, okay, I'm going to take the joke out of the show, but I'm like, I'm really sorry. It's not the intention. I will actually like engage with this person, because I know they were just upset. But then you will get someone who you can immediately tell from the tone of the message, they're just saying it just to on purpose be mean and hurt your feelings and just be like a dick about it. And I don't tolerate that anymore.
Sometimes it's got nothing to do with you at all. Sometimes it's just them. They're unpacking their own stuff, and they may be coming to terms with something that they're not comfortable with, or that they haven't wanted to deal with before, or whatever. And you just happen to be in the firing line because you're the person who they thought about the most in the last 15 minutes because you made them laugh.
Yeah, so like I said, if someone is just like being mean or whatever, like I will always make time to engage with anyone if you do it with respect. But if you're just like rude and disrespectful, then like why should I even give that my time? So right. But I must say, like you said as well, after this year, I've been doing it for 11 years. Like at this point, I've kind of now carved out my sort of fan base, if I can call it that, and people enjoy what I do. So there's not that many people that still are stumbling across me.
Yeah, like finding you at random,
Yeah, that really, really dislike me. And the people who are discovering me that dislike me, normally I have the common sense to just go, not my cup of tea, walk away. And the new people who discover me, who like me, will, kind of jump on board. But and what you realize actually when you just start blocking people, Leandre Durant, we always laugh. She calls it block and bless. bless and block or something like that. If someone's mean to her, she's like block and bless. But anyway, then you realize actually what a small amount of people it is that is just like hating on social media. It feels so much because it's
tiny.
It's 10 people sending 10 insults. So that makes 100 insults, but it's only 10 people because I haven't actually blocked that many people. But after a few people were going on Facebook, like, you suck, you're a doers, and I block them. After like 5 people, blocking 5 people, the comments, the negative comments, like suddenly dries up, and you like realize, oh wow, it was literally actually only 5 people with nothing better to do. But in the moment, it feels like, geez, there's all these people that hate me. Meanwhile,
I mean, my biggest problem with it is that that there are serious people in society and in business and so on who take like social media very seriously. So if they see one negative comment, it completely screws up their whole idea of what's going on. And you, for example, I mean, you're the perfect person to talk to about this, because if you're on stage and you've got 5,000 people who are loving your show, but out of those 5,000 people, there's one in the middle of the second row who's grumpy and looking like they've got a thundercloud above their head, and they're not having a fun time, and they're glaring at everyone around them, and they haven't laughed once, and they're miserable. You can just see them as you can't help but being focused on that person, right? I mean, it's just human nature.
Yeah, I know. Especially like if someone walks out of the show, like the whole time in the back of my mind, I'm watching the door out of the corner of my eye to see if they're coming back. And if they come back, I'm like, okay, cool. They just went to the toilet or they just went to the bar. But if I see like, okay, guy in a red jersey left, by the end of the show, I'm like, guy in the red jersey didn't come back. Even if it was the best show.
You want to know why he left more than anything else. Like you could be having the best show and everyone else in that audience is loving it, but you're fixated on that dude.
And I'm checking my DMs afterwards on Instagram, and I'm hoping this guy is gonna message me to say, this is why I left, or sorry I left, but like the babysitter called me and the house was on fire. But that stuff does bother you. And I think the biggest misconception that people have about comedians is that we don't give a shit. People think because someone like Ricky Gervais creates that kind of idea of like, I come here, I say what I want, I don't give a fuck. You can be offended, you can also just like leave and I don't care. But like that is a kind of misconception, because I promise you, even Ricky Gervais will be upset if someone leaves his show. We're not out to offend or upset people on purpose. Like sometimes it's part of the thing that happens, but I'm not out to do that. I don't like upsetting people at all. I hate it.
Like you said at the beginning of this discussion, you love performing for people. You love seeing people laugh, and it's a rare and brilliant skill. And you are one of the best at it. And in South Africa, every bit of success that you've had, you've made for yourself, which is an incredible thing. I mean, there are so many people who say, well, if I could just invent something, or if I could just get a job at a certain place or whatever, I'd be set for life. But what someone like you has done is you've taken your personality, turned it into a brand, built an audience around that. And now you've got all of this other stuff going around it as well. It's bloody incredible to see. How many years did you say you've been doing it already?
10 years. I started with 11. I started when I was
Amazing.
18, just before I turned 19. And this year I turned 30. So it's
so great, dude.
It's been long. But
David Sachs says Schalk is a legend. He made so many people's lockdown easier. Can we get a dog update?
Yeah, I've closed the door because they're a bit naughty, but yeah, the dogs are the best. If I didn't stop myself, my new show would just be like an hour of my dogs. I tell people not to get me started because I'm now proper, and it's actually so embarrassing because I used to like kind of really get. I used to find it very cringe when someone is like a hectic dog person and all they can talk about is their dogs, and they show you pictures of the dogs, and I've become that person. So I really tell people, like, just don't get me started because I'm not going to stop. So I'm going to end it there. But yes, they are my screensaver.
That's awesome.
So yes, it used to be like a relationship also goes to that phase of like, I used to be Mika's screensaver, she used to be mine, and now it's just like our dogs are like our screensavers.
So some other comments from people quickly before I let you go. Carly says, when can we expect another improv dance party on the lawn? Schalk was the lockdown daily highlight. Yeah, you helped a lot of people through lockdown. I'm getting a lot of those messages from people. And Nick says, I got to watch Schalk in Taiwan via his online show. Best 70
Wow.
Rand I've ever spent. Happy Friday. Nice. That's amazing, man. See, people all over the world. Must feel good.
Yeah, especially the lockdown stuff, because I'm very proud of that, because firstly I didn't start it with like the intention to, okay, I'm gonna make these videos and I'm gonna grow my following and my followers and everything.
Sure.
It was never the intention. So that's what made it for me quite a beautiful thing, because my intention from the beginning was just like, hey, I can't do live shows. I still want to make people laugh. How can I do it? Okay, I can make a video and put it on social media. It's not material that I'm wasting, because everything is so short-lived anyway. The tequila egg challenge is only relevant for this week. So, I might as well put it out there, because in 6 months' time, when we're able to do live shows again, I don't want to be talking about people slicking tequilas and eggs. So I'm going to talk about it now. And it was really just like my passion of making people laugh, and then it became like this bigger thing, So when people tell me like, hey, you actually helped me through a difficult time, like I love that, because that's what comedy is supposed to do. And also, ironically, like, it helped me through the difficult time as well, because being able to do what I do in a time where I was not able to do it, that gave me a purpose, And when I saw that it was getting a reaction, and like people are actually watching this, then like every day I'm like, that is my mission. I need to go on there. I need to make people laugh as hard as I can. And it just like kept me a working comedian, even though I was technically not getting paid for it. But I was like, wow, I'm so lucky. I'm still a working comedian. I'm still doing what I was born to do, but in a different way.
We have to wrap this up. Say how's it to George. We got to get to George. It's Friday morning.
Hi, George.
Gareth, to see you, man. Very good to see you. And thanks for joining us this morning. We'll talk again soon. And it's very nice to spend some time with you. And I can tell everybody's really excited to have you on the show this morning. So we've got to do it again.
Lekker, thank you. Come to a live show when I'm close. When I'm close to you.
Lekker, Schalk. Thanks so much, man. Cheers. Bye-bye. How are you, George?
Good on you, Gareth.
Lekker, man. Very good. Friday morning. How could I not be?
Exactly. I love South African comedians. It's just something about the accent. When they deliver their material is just something else.
But it's because we understand them. We inherently understand the language, the accent, the kind of cultural background, all of that stuff. And Schalk is one of the best. He really is very good.
But I also find, I've got to get into the material I came here for, but I also find that South Africans seem to be able to mimic every accent around the world a lot easier than Westerners like the Americans or the Europeans or the English.
Do you think it's maybe because we have like such a variety of languages in our own country, because we've got such different accents in South Africa? I mean, you could tell if someone is Zulu from their accent, from like a Tswana person. You can tell if someone is Afrikaans from the Cape or Afrikaans from, Pretoria. Yeah. You could tell if someone's English speaking from Durban or from, Petersburg, Polokwane. So it's amazing how much stuff we've got within our own boundaries. Maybe that's why our ears are trained to be better at this.
I think you're right. I think we're absolutely trying to do it. So no, Schalk is funny, and that accent is something else. So what do you think, if parking under a tree can be damaging to your car? People think bird shit, the regular thing. But there are other things that can fall on your car that can damage your car, like hail. And that's
what's under a tree?
Pardon?
I mean, if you park under a tree during hail or rain, is that better or worse?
No, I think it's better, because it's gonna save your car from the hail. But I'm talking about parking your car under a tree on a sunny day, because let's be honest, foliage or trees provide really good shade. For some reason, the heat dissipates under a tree a lot easier. But I don't know if you've in the at the Rhodes area of Cape Town, there's a lot of acorn trees. As a kid, we used to go and braai there. You can't braai there anymore because you'll set the mountain alight. But but we used to go and braai there, and they've got a lot of acorn trees. Now, apparently, a falling acorn, can cause damage equal to a big hailstone if an acorn falls on your car.
Yeah, listen, George, some of those acorns are frightening, and they're heavy, man. If one of them hits your head, you'll know all about it.
Exactly. So just be careful what is actually on the tree. What does the tree produce before you go and park under it? Because you could come back and there could be a couple of dings and dents. And hail damage type dents aren't the easiest dents to fix. That's not just to push those little dents out are very difficult to fix.
Yeah, you said it right at the start of this discussion, but bird shit. I mean, there's this one tree that I park under when I go and visit family, and I don't know what lives in that tree. I'm not sure how many of them live there. It must be a nest. It must be a Jurassic-sized nest of these pterodactyls or whatever they are. But I drive the car out from under that tree after only having been parked there for maybe an hour or two, and it looks like all the birds in the neighborhood have been using the toilet over my car.
And you've got to wash that stuff off really quickly, because the acid inside that bird poop is really damaging to your paint. It's very damaging. You've got to get it off very quickly.
Disgusting. All right. Good, useful information.
This is probably a no-brainer question, and that is it illegal to take a selfie while driving? I mean, obviously it's illegal, okay? But you do get people that do it.
I've seen people doing whole videos while they're driving,
holding the phone. I mean, yes, do a video while you're driving, but have the phone or the camera attached to the windscreen. We do it all the time at Auto Trader, but don't hold the camera. It's just going to be distracting, and then you're going to have an accident. But Psychology Today did a research study. I wanted to figure out, because this is apparently quite a problem in the United States. Why do people find it necessary to take selfies in the car?
Well, can you tell us?
Yes. So the reason number one came out to be narcissism. 30% of the research came out to be narcissism.
Surprise, surprise.
23% of the psychology research study is sharing and connecting. 22% said functional use, such as for their job. So they're taking a selfie for their job. I don't know why. Maybe that's to prove to their boss, listen, after lockdown, I am actually driving to work.
Yeah, who believes that?
I don't know. I've got pictures of people taking photos of the traffic in front of them. I'm late for this meeting because of this. Look here. Right. So I've had that before. Self-esteem boosting. 16% of the research study said self-esteem boosting.
Makes sense.
And then only 6% said documenting memory. So I was quite surprised at this, because you would think that a lot of social media stuff is about documenting. It's actually quite a low percentage.
Yeah, basically, George, it's all bullshit. People are going to stop doing this.
Yeah, I agree. It's all bullshit.
Concentrate on driving, you idiots. I wonder how many accidents, because we still haven't seen any really good, solid research for a long time. We've got research from the 1980s and 90s about drunk driving. We haven't seen any good research on the number of accidents on, let's say, South African roads that have been caused by people who've been on their phones. Because if we saw those numbers, I think it would frighten people.
I think it would. I think you're absolutely right, it would. But, can they establish that? Because once you have the accident, phone flies all over the place. Can you really establish whether somebody was on their phone or not? I reckon it'll be hard to do. But, it'd be interesting. Maybe, a company like Discovery, who in their insurance, they monitor whether you're using your phone or not, and you get points deducted. They could probably share some aggregate detail without, sharing personal information.
I'd like to see that. I think it's long overdue.
I totally agree. So onto a slightly lighter note, there was a goat in the United States that decided to break into a car. Now the police car door was open, and it was a justice, what we call in South Africa, I think, a sheriff, serving papers for a court case. And The goat got into the car and ate the papers. So he couldn't serve the papers on the individual because this goat got into a car and decided
all right.
he was.
I like that. I like that. That's great. A goat.
And then very finally, Gareth, Porsche has unveiled. I don't understand this, but it's pretty cool. Porsche has unveiled a camping tent that you can strap to the top of your Porsche.
Camping tent to strap to the top of a Porsche. I think the people who have the Porsches are going to be upset, and the people who like camping have got the wrong idea of what a Porsche is. Just thinking, there's some things that shouldn't really, I'm all for like stuff overlapping. And if you've got a love for camping, but you also love German sports cars, there's some stuff that shouldn't necessarily meet in the middle. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a very small niche for this camping tent because, first of all, when you go camping, usually you have to drive over really rough terrain. It's not like you drive on tar most of the time, the camping that I've ever done in my life. And most of the time, sports cars can't get in there. So, where are you going to go with the Porsche? That's the first thing. I think the second thing is, that camping tent looks really small.
George, I don't like it. This is not for us. No, not allowed. Sorry.
No. And that's it for the Friday.
Love it. Well, it's always the highlight of my Friday when George comes on because it means the weekend has officially begun. Have an awesome Friday, everybody. We will see you on Monday morning, bright and early at 6 o'clock. George, have an excellent weekend, and we'll catch up with you next week.